A very good morning. This presentation is brought to you by WWII International with a mission to leverage knowledge worldwide. The topic being covered is fading beacons. Why global institutions are losing trust. Ladies and gentlemen, global institutions like the United Nations, World Health Organization, International Monetary Fund, and International Criminal Court were established to be the pillars of global governance, justice, and cooperation after the devastation of World War II. These organizations were meant to uphold international peace, security, health, economic stability, and justice. Today, however, their relevance and effectiveness are being questioned. Inaction, slow responses, and apparent helplessness during critical global events have eroded trust in these institutions. But is it the institutions themselves that are failing, or the leadership tasked with guiding them? This is a question mark. Let's look into the subject more deeply with examples. United Nations. The UN's ability to effectively prevent or resolve the Syrian civil war stands as a glaring example of leadership failure. With over 500,000 deaths and millions displaced, the UN's paralysis in the face of great power politics has been striking. The Security Council, due to vetoes by nations like Russia and China, has repeatedly failed to take decisive action. This crisis reflects not only institutional shortcomings but also a lack of leadership able to diplomatically navigate these geopolitical impasses. The trend continues with so many more raging conflicts and hotspots around the world. The second example is of World Health Organization. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the WHO's delayed declaration of a global health emergency and its perceived leniency towards China's transparency failures showcased leadership hesitation at a time when rapid, bold decisions were needed. Had WHO leadership acted with greater assertiveness and decisiveness, the global response could have been far more coordinated, potentially preventing the spread of the virus and saving millions of lives. Third example is International Monetary Fund. The IMF's handling of the Greek financial crisis is another case of leadership missteps. The stringent austerity measures imposed during Greece's bailout worsened the economic crisis for its citizens. The IMF's leadership failed to recognize the need for timely debt restructuring, prolonging economic hardship in Greece, and undermining the IMF's reputation as a fair arbiter of global economic stability. Fourth example is World Trade Organization. The WTO has struggled to resolve escalating trade tensions, most notably between the US and China. The organization's leadership failed to intervene effectively in the trade wars that disrupted global supply chains and economies. This inability to assert authority over one of the world's most critical economic issues further highlighted the institution's diminished role in the face of assertive nationalist policies. Fifth is International Criminal Court. The ICC, established to prosecute individuals for genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, has also suffered from leadership missteps. Leadership at the ICC must rise to the challenge of demonstrating that justice is not selective. The court's hesitance to take on cases involving powerful nations reflects a leadership crisis where fear of political repercussions overrides the commitment to global justice. Restoring faith in the ICC requires leaders' willingness to stand against political pressure and uphold the principles of international law, regardless of the power dynamics involved. There has been a leadership crisis at the heart of the issues. Global institutions, while may appear structurally imperfect in today's context and over time, are not inherently flawed. Rather, it is the leadership within these organizations that often fails to harness the potential of their mandates. Effective leadership requires more than merely managing bureaucracies. It demands a visionary approach that is bold, adaptive, and resolute in navigating complex geopolitical landscapes. Leadership must be able to steer these institutions through crisis using diplomacy, coordination, and the power of their mandates to maintain global order. Unfortunately, what we have witnessed is an era of caution, stagnation, and indecision. Rather than rising to meet today's global challenges, whether in health, economic crisis, or conflict resolution, leaders of these institutions have often fallen short. They have lacked the courage to push for necessary reforms, the resolve to make difficult decisions, and the diplomatic skills to bring powerful stakeholders into alignment. The result has been institutions that appear sluggish, out of touch, and ineffective. Let us also examine the financial contributions which these institutions receive vis-a-vis return on that investment. The world's annual financial commitment to global institutions is significant. The United Nations system alone operates on a biennial budget of approximately $6 billion for its general operations, while peacekeeping efforts demand an additional $6 to $7 billion per year. The World Health Organization receives around $2 billion annually, and both the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank collectively manage funding and reserves in the range of $1 trillion. Overall, the global community contributes roughly $30 to $40 billion annually to sustain the operations of these key institutions. Despite this significant investment, the return on this input is increasingly scrutinizable. The resources often fail to deliver the robust global governance, stability, and peace these institutions were designed to uphold. The cost of inaction also results in loss of trust, stability, and order. The danger of continued leadership failures in global institutions cannot be overstated. If these bodies remain ineffective, the world risks descending into greater instability, with nations turning to unilateralism or forming fragmented alliances that bypass established global norms. This growing disillusionment could also embolden authoritarian regimes, heightening global conflicts and weakening the framework of international cooperation. The loss of faith in global institutions is not merely a reputational issue, it is a threat to global peace and security. Without strong, effective global leadership, the very foundations of the post-World War II world order could crumble. Trust, once lost, will be nearly impossible to regain. What is the way forward? Strong leadership, accountability, and reforms. The solution to this crisis begins with a renewed focus on leadership. Institutions like the UN, WHO, IMF, WTO, and ICC need leaders who are not merely administrators but visionaries, leaders who can make hard decisions and act with courage in the face of adversity. These leaders must possess diplomatic prowess, strategic foresight, and the willingness to use the full scope of their mandates to navigate complex challenges. Additionally, structural reforms are needed to adapt these institutions to today's multipolar world. Decision-making processes, particularly at the UN Security Council, must be recalibrated to prevent powerful nations from crippling the institution's effectiveness with vetoes. Transparency, accountability, and inclusive representation of smaller nations in these institutions are also essential for restoring trust and ensuring fair governance. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, a call to action is necessary. Reform leadership or risk irrelevance. Global institutions were established in the aftermath of World War II to stabilize an unpredictable world. Yet, over time, the lack of decisive visionary leadership has undermined their ability to fulfill that crucial role. Today, the world must demand more from the leaders of these institutions: boldness, accountability, and a steadfast commitment to global stability. Nations, policymakers, and civil society must push collectively for the reforms necessary to meet both current and future needs. Now is the moment to reinvigorate global governance, not with more bureaucracy, but with dynamic leadership capable of acting decisively, fairly, and in the best interest of all. The stakes are too high to ignore. Failure to act risks creating a governance vacuum leading to chaos and instability. This is a last chance to restore these institutions' relevance and their credibility. The world simply cannot afford to let them fade into irrelevance. The path forward is therefore clear. We must re-empower these institutions to become symbols of hope for billions and powerful beacons of stability for nations. They must reinvent themselves to ensure a stable and peaceful world order for generations to come. The time to act is now. Good luck, best wishes, and God bless.